All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook eyeing the Dallas Cowboys. Two guys that are on the free agent market. Ezekiel Elliott obviously spent most of his career with the Dallas Cowboys before being released and going to the New England Patriots for a season. I believe he was released by the Cowboys. But regardless, left the Cowboys, went to play for the Patriots for a season. Now he's a free agent again. Dalvin Cook also a free agent. And there's rumors out there that they have interest in the Cowboys. Well, there's also been rumors that the Cowboys and Zeke a possible reunion. Dalvin Cook, this was a recent article that I saw. Both of them eyeing the Dallas Cowboys. So, like I said, Ezekiel Elliott played 7 seasons with the Cowboys before joining the Patriots in free agency last season. Dalvin Cook spent 6 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings, was one of the best running backs both of these guys at one point were some of the best running backs in the NFL, before signing with the New York Jets in free agency and later joining the Baltimore Ravens for their playoff run. The Cowboys are in need of reinforcements at the running back position after losing Tony Pollard in free agency. They did re-sign Rico Dowdle to a 1-year contract, I believe, and they still have Deuce Vaughn on their roster as well. And I know Mike McCarthy, I think he spoke about it that, they're looking into maybe adding guys, later on in the offseason. But you could see them potentially adding a veteran and then drafting a running back. I think that's probably the most likely thing that's going to happen. First I want to go through the stats of these two guys. So I've talked about Ezekiel Elliott's stats at one point last year in 2023. So he had 642 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. The season before that, he had 12 rushing touchdowns. He didn't have 1,000 yards. He had 876 rushing yards, but he had 12 rushing touchdowns. But yeah, again, not the same player that he once was. Dalvin Cook, his stats in 2023, not Dalvin Cook-like. And a lot of people are saying that Dalvin Cook is cooked. So he had, with the Jets, 214 rushing yards, no touchdowns, 67 rushing attempts. A lot of people think he's done. Now, I think it's because he was with the Jets. I think the situation that he was in, that's kind of one of the reasons why he just looked like he had nothing left. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's also because I do have him in one of my dynasty leagues, and I'm hoping that, if he goes to the Cowboys, that would be a good spot for him. But, for me, I think the most likely scenario is the Cowboys maybe, like I said, draft a quarterback or draft a running back, and then they maybe bring in a veteran. Now, you could look at Zeke and say, well, they know Zeke. Jerry Jones speaks very highly of him. Maybe they're open to a reunion there. He knows the system. Maybe they go that route. Bring him in on a cheap deal. Or Dalvin Cook. Maybe Dalvin Cook still has some left in the tank. Maybe the Jets, it just wasn't a good spot for him. You bring him in. So, I think if you bring in one of these guys on a cheap deal and then you draft a running back, I don't think that's a bad way to go. I think for Ezekiel Elliott, the Cowboys, they were missing a runner that can get those short yardage gains, can be that goal line running back. I think Zeke could still be that. But Zeke is not that guy that, we saw his rookie season where he's having all these big runs. Look, you go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers game his rookie season. He was unbelievable. That explosiveness from Zeke is not there anymore. Now, can he be a bruiser and get those short yardages and pick up first downs and get touchdowns at the goal line? Absolutely. I think he can still do that. But, again, he is not prime Zeke anymore. And Dalvin Cook, wasn't great with the Jets. And, he could very well be done. He really wasn't a factor on the Ravens with their playoff run. He did have that one big run against the Texans, and that was it. That was like his Longest run of the year. That was his only highlight. Outside of that, nothing. You really got nothing going. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But, I mean, of course they're going to be eyeing the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys right now are in a position where they need a running back. And I think it's a good situation for both of them. But I don't know how much, I don't know what the level of production you're going to, well, I kind of do, but I kind of don't. Like, you're not going to get these guys in their primes. Like, it's not happening. I feel like Dalvin Cook, though, I feel like he's a guy that he needs to get a lot of touches. Like, he can't just be like, he comes in for a play, you take him out, comes in for 2 plays, you take him out. Like, I feel like he's got to be, he's a rhythm runner. I feel like he's got to be in the game constantly. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But, because with the Jets, I mean, he had Breece Hall. And the Jets brought in Dalvin Cook as an insurance policy to Breece Hall. And Breece Hall was fine. I mean, you saw the first run of the season for the Jets was fine there. And then the other big run he had in the Bills game, too. I mean, literally from the Week 1 game against the Bills, everyone was like, okay, Breece Hall is fine. So what does that mean for Dalvin Cook? And Dalvin Cook did not have a good season. Sorry, I just knocked my mic over. Yeah, so it just didn't pan out. And then the Jets ended up letting him go. The Ravens picked him up. Really wasn't a factor. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, again, if injuries occur, that's the other thing, too. Like, if a team's running back gets injured, these could be guys that potentially get called upon to maybe go to a team that needs them. But I don't know. The Cowboys is a unique situation just because they let go of Tony Pollard. And like I said, Rico Dowdle and JioSaavn, those are your running backs at the moment. So, I mean, I think the Cowboys, they'll probably draft one, maybe in the mid-rounds, something like that. They trade up, maybe, the guy that they like. Because I know, at least from what I've seen and heard, that the running back class in this draft is not loaded. So, maybe they say, hey, we'll bring in Ezekiel, Elliott, and Dalvin Cook. No, they're not going to do that. But, yeah, here's Jerry Jones, him saying Cowboys are all in. Should not have said that. Because they got a lot of criticism over it. Just, they really didn't do anything. They signed a linebacker, and they re-signed their long snapper. That's really what they did. They lost Tony Pollard. They lost a couple guys on their offensive line. In a season that you're going to be all in, well, you're not really showing it. But now, that doesn't mean I don't think the Cowboys are going to be good next season. I think that they will be, a 10, 11, 12-win team because that's just what happens with them. But then they're going to get to the playoffs, and what's going to happen? They're not going to go anywhere. And we've seen that time after time after time with this team. So, and I think they'll figure it out. But if you're able to address the running back position, I mean, this offense could be even better next season. Because in 2022, Tony Pollard was playing really well. And having that combination of Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, that was good. Because Zeke got those short yardage, got put in for those short yardage situations. Tony Pollard had a lot of explosive plays. Just unfortunate because, got hurt in the 49ers playoff game, and you didn't really see that explosiveness that you saw in 2022. Now, again, we'll see what happens with the Titans now, but there wasn't that explosiveness that we saw from Pollard. So the Cowboys were kind of missing that other running back to go to complement Pollard. But now they got to figure out something different because now Pollard is with another team, and I don't know. I don't think you're going into next season with Rico Dowdle as your lead running back. But that's where we sit right now. So, I mean, again, with these two guys here, with Zeke, there's familiarity there, knows the system. that makes more sense. Now, again, I think it's silly to have an Ezekiel Elliott reunion because you got rid of him and now you're bringing him back. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. For me, I think Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook would be the way to go. Now, again, that could just be me saying that because I want to see him be on a team that benefits me because I have him in my Dynasty League. But I don't know. You bring in Dalvin Cook, you draft a running back, and there you go. Let's see what happens. But the Cowboys are going to address a lot of their needs with this draft. And also you got guys coming back from injury from last season. Trayvon Diggs. He's going to be back. The Cowboys have talent on this team. We know that. It's just they can't take that next step. So, and this is Dak Prescott's team. And we'll see if they pay him what he wants. But right now, this is Dak Prescott's team. This is a pass-happy offense. When Dak first came into the league, it was Zeke's team, like I've said. But then it kind of transitioned into Dak's team as we went along in their careers, and Zeke started to get older. But you need a good running game to complement the passing game. And if you're going into the season with what you have currently at the running back position, yeah, it's going to be a problem. But it's not going to happen. They're going to address this position one way or another. And Mike McCarthy even said it. So again, it's a possibility they sign one of these guys to a cheap deal, and then you draft somebody. That's the most likely thing that's going to happen. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. And I talked about, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas and how this is a big year for them. Well, this is a big year for Mike McCarthy. Because he doesn't get it done, well, he's probably gone as well. So before we go to our second break, just want to remind you guys again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we'll talk about Mike Tannenbaum's Vikings-Cardinals trade proposal. I'll give you my thoughts on that, and that'll be the third part of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.